first trophy tonight. Bring him in.
On every angler's wish list, there's a lake that's never been fished, and a wish to be the first to cast where lunkers are lurking just waiting to be caught. This may sound like a fishing fantasy, too good to be true, but we found such a place in North Country, and we're going to take you there. All I can say is, hang on to your fishing pole.
This thing's huge!
This is Nueltin Lake, straddling the northern border of Manitoba, a mere 200 miles south of the Arctic Circle. It's a place the Eskimos called the Lake of Many Sleeping Islands. But to visiting anglers, the many islands and reefs paint a different picture. Some call it the lake that's never been fished.
I've seen 5 consecutive casts in a small river that produced fish up to 47 pounds and fish down to 24 pounds.
Indeed, Nueltin is famous for giant lake trout that roam its icy waters, and in the warmer bays, trophy northern pike lurk amid the weed beds, while the trout-like Arctic grayling frolic in the many clear rivers that empty into Nueltin. There are many reasons why Nueltin's fishing waters have survived the test of time.
It's a very vibrant lake. It's got an awful lot of tributaries. You know, compared to most lakes, Nueltin has probably 2 or 3 times the normal amount of tributaries, if not even more than that.
Yes, Nueltin Lake sprawls over the tundra with 130 miles of gin-clear water, dotted with hundreds of spruce-covered islands and countless bays.
Because of its length running north and south, it runs quite a gauntlet of flora and fauna. It runs from the boreal forest in the south in northern Manitoba right through to the barrens in Northwest Territories. So you can take a 20-minute boat ride out of tree line, and you can go right from, you know, fairly thick boreal forest right out to the barrens on the, you know, the big part of the southern basin of the lake.
But the remote location of Nueltin Lake doesn't explain why anglers come here to seek their angling fortunes. Part of the answer may come at taking a close look at this fishing lure. Although it looks like a typical lure, there are a couple of important differences. One is you'll see that there's just a single hook here instead of a treble hook. You'll also note, if you take a close look at the single hook, that there's no barb on it. This means that any fish that's hooked can be easily unhooked and released unharmed to fight again another day. Anglers who come here have no choice about catch and release fishing. At Nueltin, catch and release is the law of the lake.
I think it's really important to keep the big fish in the lake so that we can keep coming up to a place like Nueltin and keep catching big fish. It's nice to know that the big ones you have go back in, get bigger, so when you come up you can catch bigger trophies.
I felt good inside because I know in future years my grandchildren will have a place to come and catch big, big fish. Once they see that magnificent fish, to kill it, I don't think it's in their nature. Once they see it, they'll release it back into the water.
In fact, you could say on Nueltin Lake, the fishing luck goes to both the angler and the fish. The fisherman has the fun of catching. The fish swims away when it's over. But that's not the whole story.
It's in an area that is really untouched. Unspoiled nature, big fish, that's what we have in Nueltin Lake.
If you look at a map of Canada's north, you'll see hundreds and hundreds of fishing lakes, many of them still teeming with fish. But in many other lakes, the cream of the crop, the giant fish, were caught long ago. Back in 1979, Nueltin Lake Lodge was carved out of the wilderness shores of the lake. But this fishing camp would be far different than others. In other far north lakes, the trophy fish quickly disappeared, but history would not repeat itself at Nueltin Lake Lodge.
43 by 17.
Well, it's one lake in the north that's been well looked after. It's Canada's original catch and release lake. That was brought about by the previous owner who really looked after the lake. The previous owner was Bill Bennett. He lived in Ontario. And that's one reason he come and bought the lodge in the first place, was he's worked on a lodge in southern Ontario, and he's seen what happened to the resource. So he was looking for a lake that was really untouched. When he did get to Nueltin, he instituted policies that was way beyond anybody's belief. He had great foresight into the future.
There were those who said it would never work. The traveling angler, they said, had to return home with an ice chest of fish or he'd be unhappy.
He's gone.
It was not very receptive at the sports shows or dealing with clients. It's just something new that sort of scares a few people.
But camp owner Gary Girk knew differently. Today he's built a new fishing lodge with dining room and sleeping cabins. Because Nueltin is so vast, 2 outpost camps were also built. The Nueltin Narrows and the most northerly camp, Windy River, which lies in the treeless tundra of the Northwest Territories. Building in the north isn't easy, however. Everything had to be hauled in by air. The main base, Treeline Lodge, lies far beyond the end of the road, but that doesn't mean roughing it. At Treeline, visiting anglers even have the luxury of running water and hot showers. But the traveling angler doesn't come to Nueltin to take a shower. This is trophy water, a place to catch that fish of a lifetime, that dream. Yet the question remained, what would happen the first time a guest wanted to break the no-kill rule and keep a trophy to take home? Lodge owner Gary Girk explains.
I haven't had any problems like that, but if somebody does kill a big fish on Nueltin Lake, it becomes property of the lodge. They're not allowed to take it off the lake. So that sort of deters them from killing a big fish. People understand now that, to get good fishing, that conservation practices have to be in place. And if they want big fish, they got to go to a place that has catch and release. You can go to a lot of lakes that are trophy only, but chances of getting that trophy are getting slimmer and slimmer every year because they take them out year after year, and it adds up.
I've never had anybody who's wanted to take their fish home. I don't know whether that's because, the laws at Nueltin are all fish have to be released or not, but there's never been anybody who's been angry at releasing the fish. Most people would like to have their hand on it when the fish actually swims away. They can go to any number of taxidermists and get a replica made out of graphite. They're called permamounts, and they actually look better than a real fish that's been stuffed.
Today, nobody at Nueltin would ever think of keeping a fish like this. The lesson has been learned. If you want to catch fish like this tomorrow, you got to release them today. Come on, baby. Okay.
There she goes.
And every year we have had an increase in the number of trophies we catch on Nueltin. Plus the size is increasing. So that shows us that it's working. And we have fisheries up every year monitoring the lake, testing. And it's, you know, it could be a combination of our guides more skillful, anglers more skillful, electronic equipment, but it seems that every year that the fishing on Nueltin is getting better. Last year, for instance, at the 3 camps on Nueltin, we caught 1,036 Lakers over 20 pounds. It's been the best year that we've had since Bill Bennett had the camp.
The real authorities, of course, are the fishermen who come to Nueltin Lake. A Minnesota angler, Tony Beachick, made his first visit more than 30 years ago.
I've been to Nueltin Lake 5 times. The first time was back in 1953. Then I was here in 1989 and 1990, and I don't feel that the fishing back 30 years ago was any different than it is here today.
Today, to reach Nueltin, anglers take a comfortable 3-hour flight out of Winnipeg, landing on Nueltin's own runway, built on a long glacial esker in the land of the caribou and the midnight sun. A typical fishing day at Nueltin begins after a hefty morning breakfast in the main lodge, where a friendly staff makes sure you start the day right. The fishing guides are ready too. They are natives who are proud of their guiding skills, and the fishy-looking places are just too numerous to count. At the start of each fishing day, you and your guide plan a strategy of where to go and what to catch. Sometimes you'll explore new water, or the guide will lead you to proven hot spots. Either way, it's up to you to catch the lunkers.
Our guides are top-notch, second to none in Canada. What can I say? The average years that they've been on the lake, I mean, they're running up 8-9 years that, on average, that all of them combined have been on the lake, so there's nobody touches that. Our guides are top-notch.
You should also come prepared for fickle Arctic weather, including warm boots and rain gear.
That's almost vital. I never leave the dock without rain gear. The weather here can change so quickly. I've seen fog in the morning and turn into a beautiful afternoon, and then at midnight it was snowing. It's just really intense.
Keep in mind, big fish means big lures. Lake trout and northern pike are aggressive predators who will smack bright-colored spoons and leadhead jigs.
The best week of fishing here was, we had 4 guys in 5 days that caught 56 trophy lake trout. And that doesn't happen that often, but it happens yearly. And it's, I don't really like telling the public that are coming here because it builds up their expectations. You know, I like telling them what the average is. You know, and the average is usually 2 trophies per person. But the thing in camp, some guy will catch 12, and some will catch 4, and some will catch none, and that's fishing.
At midday on Nueltin, it's time for shore lunch. It's the only time there are some unlucky fish at Nueltin Lake. Those are the lake trout judged to be just right for the frying pan.
Are you sure? Yeah, you bet. It'll never be any better, you know, than right now. It's true.
What's on the agenda after lunch? Well, you might feel like taking a nap, or exploring the tundra and discovering its colorful characters like Ragnar Johnson, who lived with his sled dog and survived the long winters in primitive conditions.
This is one of Ragnar Johnson's homes. He lived in places like this for 38 years, and until he died at the age of 88, he was the only permanent resident of Nueltin Lake.
But the exploring soon ends. When you're next to the fishing lake of your dreams, it's time to go fishing again. In the heart of all anglers, there's the fond hope of someday catching a big fish. It's the kind of spirit that'll last forever because of places like Nueltin Lake. But the real lesson here is, if we put all the big fish back, we'll always have them to catch. And don't forget, bring some big lures. I'm Ron Shera, speaking for Nueltin Lake Lodge.